I would like to share this with the people in Montreal that are not going to have a team anymore. But my heart and my ring is with them too.
This one's from the Spos, Montreal. Annie Slade's got the springtime blues real bad. Can't help but reminisce about the great years we had. I remember photo day 83 summer. Yeah, I still have to pick up me, my pops and my brother. I remember All-Star Game 5 fans strong. 59,000 fans looking on. I remember tears at the kids' last game. Stood right behind him as the anthem played. Now my homemade sign's got his autograph name on the newspaper cover, first rush with fame. I remember singing Valderie, Valderall, 03 wild card race last hurrah. I remember Vlad 40-40 in the call they got wrong. The game against the Braves, Cliff Floyd going long. Still missing Montreal ball 6 years on. Yeah, sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Marquis Grisham is flying. He's already at second. Here he comes to third. He's been waved. The play at the plate goes ahead for a strike. Safe at home. Expos
This one's for the kid and the cat and the hawk. And this one's for Britt, Larry, Walk, and The Rock. And this one's for El Presidente, Mo, and No Cab. And this one's for Spaceman, Crow, and Vlad. And most of all, this one's for us.
You know, I won 2 world championships in New York. Played in Chicago 5 years. Played with Baltimore for a week. and I played in Miami. So, but, you know, my career started in Montreal. I spent 13 years there, and it's only fitting that I go in as an Expo.
I remember doing a jig on the dugout with Utes. I remember
He forgot Oakland. Tim Raines played for Oakland in 1999. He had lupus. He was out. He came back. Anyway, that was Tim Raines. The song, the immortal Anakin Slade, his Remember the Expos. He created that in 2010. Little did we know 6 years later the buzz would be what it is right now to get baseball back. Welcome back. It's Weekend Game Plan with Matthew Ross. We're here till 9 o'clock. We're going to talk a little Hall of Fame here, but not the angle that you might think. We heard from Tim Raines saying he's going to go in as an Expo, and that'll be on his plaque, right, his hat. Well, we're pleased to be joined by a gentleman from Matthews International and Entertainment in Pittsburgh. His name is Josh Rooney, and he works for the company, or he's with the company that is producing the Baseball Hall of Fame plaques. Hey, Josh, how you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. Pedro. I remember that. I remember that from 2015. That was so much fun, his induction.
Yeah, Pedro Martinez in 2004 when he won the World Series with the Red Sox, gave a shout-out to people in Montreal as they were losing their team. And as you mentioned, going in 2015 and that process of creating the plaque, and just such a beloved figure here in Montreal. He played 4 years here, and your people, it seemed like, really enjoyed doing that plaque for him.
Yeah, you know, that was a fantastic experience. We got contacted by the Boston Globe, and of course the Red Sox loved Pedro as well. And they wanted to come out, and they wanted to kind of follow along in the process and get an exclusive, report on how the plaque was made. And, throughout their investigative process, they were asking our sculptor at the time, Mindy Ellis, sweet lady, Mindy Ellis, had been working with Matthews for 20 years, making somewhere around 76 likenesses for the Hall of Fame. So she actually sculpts them in clay before we cast them in bronze. And throughout that process, I learned that she had never met an inductee. She had never met a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame after 20 years of working on these plaques. And I thought, man, we got to do something about that. We got to fix that. We got to do something. And so through the Boston Globe and through Jeff Idelson at the Baseball Hall of Fame, we were able to get her a private audience with Pedro. And it was a private audience with her and her family, and it was so meaningful because Pedro was just fantastic. He really was into the work that she had done and how she had captured his face and his eyes, and really it was a masterpiece. If you get a chance to go up to Cooperstown this year for the Tim Raines induction, please make sure you check out the Pedro Martinez plaque.
Oh, there's no question Montrealers would do that. We're chatting with Josh Rooney from Matthews International and Entertainment in Pittsburgh as we talk about the company that's making the plaques for the Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, I guess when this is an interesting question because some years there were no plaques, right? A few years ago we had that situation, unfortunately. Last year you had 4, this year you'll have 3. I'm thinking, I don't know, you'd rather the most guys going in as possible.
Certainly it helps from the publicity standpoint, and when the Negro Leaguers were announced and Buck O'Neill got up and spoke on their behalf, there was about 12 or 15 that went in. So, yeah, sometimes the bigger the classes, the better. But there is so much time that is put into these releases, the actual clay, the likeness of the player. Tom Suchia, who is out of Cincinnati, he's the sculptor for the Cincinnati Reds. He's done the Joe Morgan statue and Frank Robinson and Perez, and he's currently working on, of all people, Pete Rose, the sculptor for the Hall of Fame, working on Pete Rose. There you go.
Yeah.
But Tom puts so much time and effort into capturing these faces. Now, something you kind of have to keep in mind is that this is not a two-dimensional flat image. It protrudes. It's like three-dimensional. It's almost like a bust. And you got to be able to look at it from the left, from the right, from the top to the bottom. Remember, they don't hang these plaques all in one uniform line, right? So you're either up above, you're down below. They've got to look good at every angle, and they require a lot of time to sculpt.
Chatting with Josh Rooney from the company called Matthews International, handling the plaques for the Baseball Hall of Fame. How long do the plaques take to make?
Well, that's a good question. The most of the time is spent on the sculpting. So just to give you a timeline of events here, next week we're going to receive Tim's photos along with Jeff Bagwell's and Pudge's photos. They come as photo sets. And the Hall of Fame picks an image that they really, really like. Now, for Pedro Martinez, they picked a photo of him in a Boston Red Sox hat, but he had a glove up against his chin. It was completely obstructing his chin, and so our sculptor Mindy at the time had to reconstruct his chin. He also liked to wear a necklace around his neck, and this was a point that Pedro brought up with Mindy. There was a necklace that he always wore that had a baseball-like signet on it, and she had to go to the level of detail to put the stitches, the laces, on the baseball. So there's a lot of detail that goes into these, but to give you an idea on the timeline, we'll get the photographs next week, and the plaques really have to be turned around and cast by April 1st. And the reason for that, and you might say, well, gee, induction doesn't take place till July. The reason for that is all of the merchandise, the postcards that you buy in at the museum store, the T-shirts, the mugs, all of those kinds of things. That there's a long lead time for those items.
All right, and then final question on this plaque stuff is, what about the player himself? Does he see it before July? Do they have an approval, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's probably the question we get most. So what you heard Tim Raines say there in that clip that you played before this segment is that he has decided that he's going to go on in as a Montreal Expo. Now, of course, that's no surprise, right? But there are times when there are surprises. Tony La Russa went in without a logo on his cap. Greg Maddux, no logo on his cap. It was a disappointment both to the Cardinals and the Braves and, the other teams for which they played, which, and served, the White Sox and the Angels. But really, that's the involvement that the player gets. Tim has decided he's going to go in as a Montreal Expo, and after that, he doesn't see the plaque until he gets up on stage with 50 Hall of Famers in Cooperstown, and his name is called, and he is brought up to the podium to make his speech.
Wow.
He gets to see it for about 30 seconds before he has to start.
Now, before we wrap up here on Weekend Game Plan with Matthew Ross, we're chatting with Josh Rooney from the company creating the plaques for the Baseball Hall of Fame, Matthews International. I'm looking at some of their work right now, actually. But the last name, your last name, and Pittsburgh, synonymous certainly with football. I would think you're rooting for a certain team tomorrow. Why don't you tell the folks about your connection?
Yeah, so my family owns and operates the Pittsburgh Steelers, and absolutely, anytime you're in an AFC championship game, but with the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
I mean, Roethlisberger and Brady head-to-head. I'll tell you, I feel good about this game. The Steelers are healthy. We've got all of our offensive weapons. Defense is really coming together. I like this game. Sure, they're tired. I know there's been a lot of publicity about them having a day and a half less rest and, all these things, all these distractions that have taken place. But I think when the team's back is against the wall, they play their best, and I really look forward to a victory in Foxborough.
All right, Dave's a big Ravens fan here in studio. Dave, you're not happy about the Steelers having a chance at a Super Bowl, huh?
Yeah, Josh, I'm not going to lie to you. As a Ravens fan, I despise the Steelers, but I can give respect where it's due, and I actually see the Steelers advancing to the Super Bowl as well. So.
Wow. All
the best to you.
Thank you.
Through.
Thank you.
Now,
hey, I just want to mention to you now, Dan Rooney, emeritus to the Steelers, Art Rooney's son, he was the only guy that blocked the Art Modell move from Cleveland as the Browns to Baltimore as the Ravens, because Dan understood that football was made up of rivalries. Football needed rivalries. He was the only owner that stood up that day and blocked the move.
Yeah, it's a shame that Ravens-Steelers just doesn't have a rivalry at all, huh? It worked out well, though, but it is a well-intentioned move, certainly. Now, the final thing for you here, and I'm curious. So you're a Pittsburgh guy. Any chance you come in to see the Pirates play here against the Blue Jays in the spring?
Mark Shapiro is a friend of mine. Of course, you're president there for the Toronto Blue Jays. And great guy, of course, worked with the Indians for many years. And I don't know, I hadn't really considered it, but maybe I will. It sounds like a fantastic time. I'd love to see you sent me a note about how many people have been attending these preseason games. You've had kind of a groundswell of support there. So, yeah, I think that sounds like fun.
All right. Well, I'm doing the pre and post game probably here for TSN 690 at the stadium. So hop on by the booth. We'll talk.
All right. Very good. Well, look, I look forward to seeing you guys in Cooperstown.
Absolutely.
Should be a blast. I remember how vocal the Expo fans were 2 years ago, and I really look forward to seeing them all.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet from what I hear locally, Josh. It's going to be nuts. Thanks so much for your time.
All right, take care. You guys have a great one.
All right, that's Josh Rooney from Matthews International creating the plaques for the Baseball Hall of Fame and part of the family that will be rooting for the Pittsburgh Steelers tomorrow against New England Patriots. TSN 690 will have that game